What's going on, guys? I hope you're having a fantastic day. I know we are getting to a video a little bit later in the day, but I've been trying to stay as consistent as possible. Now, this is a forewarning. This video, I think, is less lighthearted and analytical and just me talking about Pokemon cards or experiences I'm having, issues I'm facing. This is more talking about the entire market boom as a whole. The bubble, the inflated pricing, the events that occurred that make Pokemon what it is now, that make the cards the prices they are now. And you know, hopefully you guys will appreciate this video, but let's go ahead and get into it. So if we look at, you know, what's a good benchmark for Pokemon in terms of pricing? Well, the Charizard first edition is probably the best benchmark we have. The base set Shadowless first edition Charizard is probably the best benchmark that we have. Everybody in this hobby pretty much knows what this card is. This is my personal one. Nothing too crazy about it. But here it is. Here's the guy that kind of started it all. And obviously we need to give credit where it's due to all of the base set Pokemon, all the original holographic cards. But let's be honest here, this big orange flying lizard dragon is the reason why a lot of us got back into the hobby. It's very iconic. It's what a lot of us remember. But more importantly, it's a benchmark. It's a benchmark for the hobby and where the hobby is going. So this card in August 2020 was a $2,000 card. I believe even in a PSA 10, it was a $2,000 card. Now, I may have gotten my PSA 9 and PSA 10 pricing mixed up, but I do believe there were PSA 10s exchanged, old certs, you know, cards that were graded and, you know, they're poorly graded in a way that shows them as 10s, even though they're 8s, 9s, whatever. All that aside, I believe there were PSA 10s that sold August 2020, right before August, and maybe even in August, for $2,000, $2,500, maybe $3,000. Since that time, the first edition PSA 10 Charizard has become a $200,000 plus card, right? Almost $250,000, and there are sales to prove that it was a $250,000 card, maybe even $300,000 or $400,000. There were some people that have massive bags from this card, but it's not just this card. This is kind of covering the whole market, and Charizard is a good benchmark, but all cards went up in price. When I was collecting, and I pretty much got back into collecting during that time, you know, particularly vintage stuff, and I probably overspent on everything that's in my collection up to now. So you wonder why a lot of people are charging the prices they are now, because they are stuck. They're stuck at the top. They're stuck at that cost basis. And it's been good to continuously be collecting no matter what's going on with the market, because it gives you a better baseline. It gives you a better cost basis average, just collecting as you go. I'm getting much better prices now. And there was a little dip even during the pandemic time that was still a good time to buy cards. But for the most part, everything, not just Charizard, but it is a good benchmark, everything went up. Everything got inflated. If you were just selling in that market, fantastic. You know, fantastic. You were just raking it in. You were taking full advantage of Pokemon, the franchise, and getting really popular and becoming a part of pop culture. And, you know, people influencing the hobby more than they ever did. You were benefiting off of that. If you were selling at that time, you were benefiting off of that. If you were collecting prior to it and then selling, you were benefiting extremely off of that. My story is I was collecting theme decks and selling theme decks. So a lot of the money that I spent got offset by the sales, by very high sales during that time. Now things have slowed down quite a bit. I'm still selling theme decks regularly, probably at least 1 or 2 a week. But still, it has slowed down a lot from when I was shipping out several a week, and they've just sold. Anyways, all of this to say, what happened in August? Where did all of this inflation, where did this bubble come from in Pokemon that we know today? A lot of people talk about losses. A lot of people talk about, it was all fugazi. We compare it to the stock market. I compare it to the stock market. It was another bubble. It was another trend. It was another thing that people bought into heavily, myself included, right? You guys know from the very beginning of this channel, I've bought some cards that I way overpaid for. It's happened many times. I bought theme decks that I've overpaid for. I bought sealed booster boxes that I've overpaid for. This Evolutions box is a great example. I can barely even get what I put into this box a year after purchasing it. If the market was truly trending up and very bullish and the franchise was strong as ever, that box would have already sold for more than what it was a year ago. Anyways, that's neither here or there. This is to go into maybe a more serious note of what was going on and how did this happen. I typically don't do videos like this, but I don't know. I did a bunch of thinking today, and I just thought, why on earth were we all buying Pokemon cards? Why on earth? What was the perfect storm that made this happen? We have mentioned, so many content creators have mentioned the boom, pandemic time, stimulus money. We've brought all that stuff up, but I'm going to get a little more serious and a little more down to this, or into this, I should say. So August 2020, what happened? We had the first COVID-19 cases beginning, right? The world was literally kind of falling apart in August 2020. We had new elections coming with our current president now. We had COVID-19 cases rising. We had, whether this is, not entirely the truth or not, we have accounts, we have information that, in certain countries and globally, hundreds of thousands of people got sick or died during COVID. Maybe it was misinformation. Maybe they died from something else. We're not here to get into the conspiracy or take my channel in an entirely another direction. Even though I'm always open to doing anything with this channel, but we're going to keep it based on why are we talking about this, because it does apply to Pokemon. And if you want to know what happened with Pokemon, why all these cards shot up in value, and not just read articles and watch videos of people saying like, Pokemon card, like, this is the set you need to buy, this is what you should be investing in, and I am guilty of making videos like that too. I am. And as I'm more entrenched in the hobby, I get more numb to videos like that and numb to information. And I think, you've really got to come out with something that is more helpful, that helps people understand why this stuff happened. 2020, we had COVID-19. Okay, people were dying. Why were we thinking about Pokemon cards at that time? I have no idea. Okay, but then schools started shutting down, okay? People were not going to work. People, businesses were getting shut down. People were not supposed to do anything. We had restrictions. If you've already forgotten, no one was supposed to go out or do anything. There was a time period where, especially here in North Carolina, you weren't supposed to go and do anything. You're supposed to stay inside, have your masks on, and if you were doing stuff, people weren't happy about it. They were very judgmental. They were very mean about it, and rightfully so. People were dying. People were getting very ill. This was a very serious thing happening. But people were out of work. This is where the stimulus checks came from. People were not going to school. So in August, Chapel Hill was the first college to turn classes to online classes, right? So now you have an entire country's, or really globally, but really, of course, it has to be the US. It has to be the most capitalistic, Western, consumer-driven people on the planet. That would have to be the US to invest so heavily into Pokemon cards. This is not a jab at anybody or anything regarding Pokemon. This is really just, I'm already in deep, right? You can see that by the background. I'm already in deep. If anything, this is self-reflection. Why did I do everything I did? Why am I still collecting the way that I am? And we can get to that. Or maybe it'll be for another video. Right now, we're talking about what happened, why this became such a phenomenal franchise, why it grew even more, why cards like the Charizard card became hundreds of thousands of dollars when they were like $2,000 tops. What happened here, okay? You have a whole workforce out of work. You have students not going to school. All of a sudden, everybody is stuck at home. Now, this resonates with me a lot because when we were having Aspen, when Diana was carrying Aspen, things were getting tough. Our bar was not a thing yet, right? Our bar was not open yet, okay? So during the beginning of the whole pandemic, I'm dealing with, okay, I'm gonna be a new father. Providing is gonna get tough. The stock market, which is another thing kind of like Pokemon, it was going bonkers during the pandemic because no one had anything to do. People were sitting at home, diddling their thumbs, the same way that I was, trying to figure out what am I going to do here. I was making the stock market work for me, and that's how I was really providing an income. And when I met Diana, I was doing very, very well for myself. Well, within a couple of years, the Pokemon market went like this, and the stock market went like this. So I had to make a very difficult decision with my degree in finance to say, you know what? This is not working. This is not sustainable. I have not pulled any of my investments out of the market. I am still fully invested in the stock market and hoping things turn around at some point, but I didn't wait for that. My family started a business, and I started doing YouTube videos, and I started collecting Pokemon cards. I started thinking maybe this is something that I could hustle or sell while also enjoying my childhood, right? Because at the same time, all this bad is happening in the world. A lot of negativity out in the world. This is a very serious topic. There's a lot of bad stuff happening. People dying, being ill, hospitals overflowing. Let's not forget how scary the pandemic time was. For a lot of us, myself included, life probably felt very normal. Probably felt the same. But as you're going out, as you're getting groceries, as you're wearing a mask everywhere you go, years on end, it started to really click that things are not right in the world. And yet, the stock market was doing whatever it was doing, and Pokemon cards were doing whatever they were doing. But you have this perfect storm of stimulus money, grown adults out of work, young people not going to school anymore. They're at home. They're watching on the screen. Well, what else are they doing? They're probably watching other things on the screen too. Pardon me. Bleh. Sometimes I'm going to mess things up. I don't edit my videos. It's whatever. You guys love the channel for that reason anyways. So back to what I was saying. We have all these things going on. People are at home. They're seeing the winners of this whole situation. Really, truly, some of the biggest winners in this whole situation are either people that somehow capitalized on COVID, started some kind of business that worked with COVID, or their business got even better because of COVID. And one example of that, a perfect prime example of that, is streaming. And YouTube was at the forefront of that. We started, TikTok became a thing, and that's its own thing, and TikTok's becoming a monster now, just like YouTube became really during the pandemic. Before the pandemic, YouTube was a meme space. It was a place where videos weren't really creating revenue. It wasn't really taken seriously. And I want to say mid 2000s, maybe even late 2000s, like 2010. I want to say things started getting serious with YouTube and ad revenue and partnerships and sponsorships and, massive conglomerate, companies, new companies taking advantage of YouTubers because they were making so much money. But this is all to say that YouTube became a serious phenomenon in August 2020, and the following years, right? We're 3 years down the line now. We're going into 2024. It's crazy to think that when things began, when the Pokemon boom began, it was 4 years ago. That's crazy how much time, how fast things have gone by. And I've learned so much in that time, but at the same time, I haven't learned anything. I'm like, why did this happen? How did things get so inflated in this collector market? And I say this because it truly is baffling to me. I've collected many things in my life: watches, cars, shoes, jewelry. I was into Yu-Gi-Oh! Really more so than Pokemon. So I've always been into TCG. I probably stopped playing around, late high school, early college, and started focusing on other things, getting a job, finishing school, getting a degree, meeting somebody to start my life with, hence my family now. But, it's crazy how big, the bubble got before it burst. And it's this perfect combination of horrible things happening in the world, really. So you have people out of work, they're seeing people on YouTube making money sitting at home. I was one of those people that suddenly was like, maybe the market is not the safest thing for me to do right now. Maybe I should get into something else. And the bar wasn't quite happening yet, right? We had to open up our bar. Me and my family tried opening, well, it is open now and I run it now, Starlight on 22nd here in Charlotte, North Carolina. But before that happened, there was no game plan. And Pokemon actually gave me a chance to create a new game plan. It was like, wow, I get to relive childhood, collect everything I want, immerse myself in trading cards. My Diana at the time when I was just starting to get back into collecting vintage was like, I hope you know what you're doing because we don't know what's going to happen the next couple of years and you're deciding to put it into this new thing. But I felt so confident from meeting other collectors online and exchanging messages and notes like, this is doing really well for me. I've made this much in the past couple months. And a lot of these people were collectors prior to the boom. So they were doing very well, but I wanted to do well like them. So I started my Mercari. I started eBay. I started, making crappy YouTube videos, which would turn into the videos that are probably still kind of crappy to some of you now, but I think are really quality content, semi-high quality videos. When I started this channel, I had an iPhone 6. Now we're using my iPhone 14 Pro. I don't take anything for granted. I'm very lucky to have my new phone and this new setup and have created this little game room. But all this happened, during that first year, really. So in August, you had schools changing to online classes, people quitting their jobs, people dying, and stimulus checks starting to hit. And with everything horrible going on, people were investing and putting their money into Pokemon. And on top of that, they were given free money. I was one of those idiots. And I say this lightheartedly because I know this is more of a serious video because it bothers me. It bothers me, but it's also baffling. I don't know what responses I expect from this video. I want to hear from everybody. Don't you think it's kind of crazy? All this stuff happened and we're still chugging along. We're still, Pokemon is more popular than it's ever been, but nobody's really talking about, or at least I feel like nobody's really talking about the origins of where it all exploded. It's not like Pokemon had been steadily rising since 99. That has not been the case. Pokemon cards were worthless pretty much. The mass majority of them were worthless up to August 2020. That's 20 years. No one really gave a hoot about, creating a market, being a part of a market. And so many of you, a lot of you that probably watch this channel are going to be newer collectors or semi-new collectors or like me, recent collectors coming back to the hobby for the last couple of years. Some of you are going to be longtime veterans, but you're also going to be able to speak to this. This is something that I think everybody can chime in on. But there was no real money to be made. There was no real plays to be made. Maybe there were, and it was just smaller increments of money, so it wasn't as noticeable. But then, bam, if you had a collection of PSA 10 Charizards, now all of a sudden, you're a millionaire. You went from being a guy with a couple old cert slabs in your closet, whatever, in your shoebox. Some of the pictures I see for people getting out their PSA 10 cards. I saw this listing that's gone now, but it was a Gold Star Pikachu PSA 10. It was an old cert, but it was a beautiful card, but it was an old cert. And the photo, the guy's holding the card, in the background there's a shoebox full of old slabs. And it was a super old cert, outdated PSA slab. So I knew it had been sitting there for a while. But now people who just had stuff shoved away, all of a sudden there's all this money that has bubbled up to the surface for this stuff. It's crazy to me that it grew so rapidly. And I think a lot of people would agree that we kind of needed these horrible events to happen. We needed people and I will get shit for this. I shouldn't be cursing. I will get flack for this, for bringing up the name Logan Paul, right? It gets a lot of bad juju, a lot of bad energy. We don't like saying that name. That's like it's like the Sith Lord and Voldemort combined. We don't say that name in the hobby, but I think it's important to recognize the fact that influences like that potentially tank the hobby for a lot of people. They can't afford these cards now, but at the same time, it maybe have created some kind of influence in the hobby where people wanted to start collecting cards again, right? This was a celebrity, pretty much an icon, a YouTube extraordinaire that now was doing Pokemon cards. We never knew that prices were going to get so astronomically high, right? But I think it's good that popularity was brought back to the hobby. That's the only point I'm trying to make here. And throw it in with the fact that, people see Logan Paul as a horrible, situation in Pokemon. And again, we're going to throw that in with the pandemic and stimulus and people being out of work and out of school, and all these factors have made Pokemon what it is today. So everyone wants everybody to win in this hobby, and they want prices to be cheap, and, you shouldn't buy these ridiculously priced graded cards and whatnot. I think it's so unrealistic. Like people are going to continue to buy this stuff. The market's been created. It's been made. There's no going back at this point, in my opinion. This isn't a pump. I could lose half my money on everything that I have, or all of it. Everything could go to zilch. But what's to gain from me making a video like this? I don't even know that, right? I just know that I believe in this market, and I believe that Pokemon as a franchise is just going to do really well moving forward. And even more so, in a time when it was tumultuous, is that the right word? I don't know. I'm trying to use a larger vocabulary, right? In a time where things were hectic, let's say, chaotic, it did so well. Is this to say that in the future, when times get tough, situations get tough, Pokemon will still remain on top? Will it still fare well? I don't know. It might just be the fact that people were stuck at home and they're watching streamers, right? When you have a huge group of people watching a group of people streaming and making content and making money, and their life is progressing while you're sitting at home stuck doing nothing, it's very difficult, in my opinion, it's very difficult to watch that. You want to be a part of it. You want to jump into it. And now that's kind of died off a little bit, right? You can still make Pokemon content. You can still start your YouTube, but don't do it. You're not doing it anymore because other people are doing it. Because the fad of Pokemon and things are teetering out a little bit. And you're still going to see me buying high-end cards, buying stuff that is seen by a lot of people as irresponsible amounts of money to spend on slabbed, plastic, graded, perfected cardboard, right? It's tough for people to see that, but I think right now, it's not glamorous, it's not sexy, it's not exciting like it was during that time. It was the only exciting thing. It was not the only exciting thing, but it was one of the few lighthearted things we could do, right? During the world's chaos, we were watching our favorite YouTubers and streamers opening sets and having fun, and people in the chats, and we're just having a ball over here, right? And I want that for this hobby. I want that for this hobby. I want it for my channel. I want to continue having a ball, having a good time, learning, chopping it up with collectors, making memories, making friends. But I think very seriously about, my decisions and where it's led. And occasionally you guys are going to get a serious video like that. Some of my best videos early on in the channel, I think my first video that ever did 10,000 views was a video where I was talking about the dangers associated with collecting Pokemon cards. Warning. I had this really cheesy title. It was warning, Pokemon cards, should be collected in moderation. It was so stupid because I found myself burning out and collecting and spending way too much money, and I wanted to warn people of this. But, there are so many variables and factors that led up to that point. And I'm very grateful to be where we are now with the channel. We're approaching 4,200 subs, and it feels like I don't even really have to work anymore. Honestly, I just make videos because I enjoy them, and it's great. Whereas before, it was the struggle of getting that first 100 subscribers and getting people to watch your stuff, and it's amazing. But again, I look back on what created this. Hard times created this market, this era that we're in now. And I to that point, I think a lot of people are in this for the money. Let's be frank. I think a lot of people are in this for the money. But I think it's great at the same time. I think that it makes it a more serious market. We've got way more serious players than we've had before, and it's not like people that bought all of the PSA 10s for top dollar in the market are ruining the market, right? Those guys are still stuck at the very tippy top too, right? There's people that bought PSA 10 cards, my favorites, crystals, gold stars, first editions, shinings. They bought all of those at the very tippy top of the market, or even alternate art cards like the Umbreon from Evolving Skies. There's not really a better example than that other than the Latios from Sun and Moon. Those are two of the most iconic cards in my opinion. And I really like the Latios, but I'm not even sure if I care that much about the Umbreon. It's just a cool card to have. I think I like the V more. But anyways, we're getting off topic here. Some of those cards, people are buying them at levels that they should not have been buying them at, right? It is what it is. People have to live and learn. They have to fail to move forward, right? So even if people got caught at the top, it's not a huge sob story of like, oh, they lost everything. Like, no, it's just a market like anything else. It's just like the stock market now in a way, where we saw this huge spike and then it's coming back down to earth. But I still think we're going to see little burbles here and there. I think we're now going to start seeing Pokemon really act the way an index fund would. And I think our biggest benchmark is the Charizard card. I say all of this to say that, like, I have overspent and overleveraged myself on a lot of cards, and I'm in a great position now. This is not like a I messed up guys video. This is like I'm looking back on everything that happened and wondering like how we got here, and just talking about it freely, regardless how it's accepted or rejected, or if people are upset by like, we don't like to talk about all the horrible stuff that happened that made Pokemon great, but that's the reality, is that a lot of, the aftermath of Pokemon is we've got a lot of bag holders, we've got a lot of people stuck at the tippy top, we've got a lot of people that have over-leveraged, burnt out, overspent, and God bless like anybody that supported me, watched the channel, bought from me, because y'all got me through the last 2 years, really. And I have to give credit to myself. I put in a lot of time on this channel, but a lot of y'all that support me actively, you have no idea what you've been actively pulling me out of. There was a lot of uncertainty where I was going with my life. What I wanted to do, was I not going to use my, what I learned in school? Am I not going to use that? Am I not going to do finance? Am I not going to traditionally invest? And Pokemon has literally taken all of that stress away from me. I just have a great life right now. And moving forward, I see a very bright future. And I see a bright future for Pokemon too. But it's all to say that, like, so much crazy stuff has happened. And it's easy to get caught up in what's going on right now, and Paldean Fates, and the newest sets that are coming out, and should you buy Modern, or should you buy Vintage, or should you buy PSA 10 or PSA 9? We're going to get to all of these topics throughout the channel. We're going to talk about stuff that is very important to a lot of you, to a lot of collectors, but every now and again, I'm going to try and keep it as real as possible, reel it back a little bit, and be like, what happened here? What's going on? What are we doing here? One of my, and like, you guys, I'm going to do a binder video at some point and show you guys all the cards I collected early on, coming back into the hobby. And man, I got to tell you, not only are the conditions not great for I'd say 50% or more of them, but I look back on eBay prices that I bought these cards for, and like Mercari, like stuff that I bought on there. Oh my God, I was getting burnt on these cards. And so like to me, it's beautiful where the hobby's gone, where it's going, but it's tragic too. It's horrific, like how much money was lost. If you weren't able to adapt or die, if you weren't able to quickly adapt and move your money around or sell during the boom, like you were stuck. Like right now, if I didn't sell my theme decks, Collecticon, if I wasn't at Collecticon hustling all my stuff, trying to really consolidate my collection and get some equity back, I think I would have been kind of in a tough position. Whereas now I have everything I want in my collection. I got a ton of equity back, and I've been selling stuff just as much as, well, not just as much, but I've been selling stuff trying to balance out buying and selling. I'm certainly spending way more money than what I'm doing selling stuff, but I'm trying to be proactive and sell stuff and not get so attached to things while still enjoying everything in my collection. But Ryan, make your main points and close it up. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I just think everybody needs to just continue where they're at with the hobby. Take it slow. Don't get burnout. We use burnout a lot because it's real. It's real on YouTube. You can burn out very easily. Just today, I was like, I don't even want to make a video. Like, I want to when I'm in here doing it. Maybe some of you that make content can relate to this. Like, when you're making the content, it's enjoyable, but thinking about doing it is like thinking about going to the gym, which I felt like I didn't want to do today either, and I did it anyways. I wanted to sit there and watch Netflix for several hours. That's all I wanted to do today. But sometimes I feel like there's videos that need to be made, and this was one of them. And, you know, we're going to have a lot of good times ahead in this hobby, but I think for a lot of the people that overpaid for stuff, bought high-end slabs, you know, over-leveraged, spent their stimulus money on Pokemon, which I did too. I spent my stimulus check on Pokemon cards. In fact, I'm pretty sure I got my stimulus check and bought a case of Evolving Skies when it was cheap, you know, before, you know, and it's just like, that's another thing. That's another thing with vintage, going into modern, people are so bullish on modern, and I get it. But if you look at the logistical graph and data for the old sets and how they trickled up, I think it's safe to say that even with a new population of collectors and a franchise stronger than ever, you can't think that modern is going to do this. You just can't. I'm very bullish on modern. You're going to see market updates on videos from me that are like talking about specific sets or the entire era as a whole. Sword and Shield, I'm very bullish on. Scarlet and Violet, I'm extremely bullish on. I think they've made a lot of improvements with giving us, you know, hollows in every packs and, you know, giving us better pull rates. And I've had such a fun time with 151, as you guys have seen on the live streams. I'm loving Scarlet and Violet, honestly. And I think it'll fare really well. But I don't think that any of these sets in 1 year are going to do big numbers, right? I think they are all going to move in a year. Actually, I think maybe a year and a half. But most sets, I think, are going to move in a year. Most sets in Sword and Shield have started moving. I think it takes about a year, maybe a year and a half or two, for modern sets to start doing their thing. That's not to say that they won't inch up, but I think for people that are looking to make money in this hobby, that time's, it's done. You can make money, you can find hustles, you can find niches, you can make it work. I'm doing it, I'm still making it work, but it's not like it was before. You know, you gotta have a plan, you've gotta have a niche, you gotta be tactical about this, you've gotta be smart with how you're spending your money, and you should not be in Pokemon for that reason anyways, but a lot of us are. A lot of us like the idea of investing and value in it and not losing our money, right? One of, you know, a good, you know, friend and collector of mine has said, you know, this is great. This is a great point to just, you know, being financially secure in general, is that he said, I'm just trying to not lose money. No one is really, maybe one or two people in my whole life have said that to me, right? On opposite ends of the spectrum. One in a not so great place financially, the other in a fantastic place financially, but they're both saying the same thing. How do I just not lose money doing this, collecting this? I think collecting, especially with buying sealed product, you know, and I'm ending this video on this note because I don't want to be all doom and gloom, like look how our hobby got here, but I do want to say that people can still get trapped at the top. It can still happen. You know, if you're buying things thinking that you're going to make a quick flip, I wouldn't operate that way. Unless you know the market very well, which I feel very equipped to make those high risk decisions and selling stuff now, but I didn't feel that equipped coming into this. And if you're coming to this hobby right now, don't expect modern Pokemon cards to just absolutely balloon. I just don't expect it. It might happen, but don't expect it. I'd give it like a 5-year timeline on everything. And in 5 years, are you still gonna be in the hobby? In 5 years, are you still gonna be collecting cards? In 5 years, are you gonna be willing to start your eBay account and start packaging and labeling stuff and getting a part of the program to get your money back? These are all very important questions to ask if you are getting in the hobby. There's a lot that goes into this. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know how selling online works. If you want to move your money around constantly, you should learn about grading, even though a lot of people feel like grading is a scam, and don't waste your time on grading and binder all your cards. That's another video that I'm going to make, because I think that's kind of a controversial topic. And I have cards that are bindered, and I have a slab collection too. You can have all these things. I don't think there's like one right answer in this hobby. But one thing that I know for a fact, the whole premise of this video is that we got here from, pretty hard situations, and it's crazy to look back on it and, think about the irresponsible decisions a lot of us made. And I know you're out there, you're watching this video, you probably made some irresponsible decisions buying some Pokemon cards during the boom, buying stuff we shouldn't have been buying. We're all responsible for pumping up this market, getting it to a point where it is now, to a point where now there's articles popping out every other week that are like, have you, Pokemon cards are now valuable. Have you checked under your bed, and have you checked your closet and your attic and whatever? And, you could be sitting on a stash of money. It's good to be sarcastic and fun with this stuff, but at the same time, those articles, while they are kind of like just for views or clicks, they're not wrong. They're really not wrong. There's a lot of money circulating now in Pokemon, and I think it's a really exciting time. But looking back to how it got here, it makes me kind of angry. I'm not gonna lie. Like it pisses me off a little bit, because I'm like, oh God, if I would have gotten back into collecting cards, I probably would have seen streamers and YouTubers, and I probably still would have said, regardless of value or money being in it, I probably still would have been like, I'm gonna start a YouTube. I always wanted to start a YouTube, and I had a YouTube when I was a younger kid, and I just gave up on it because I was young and I didn't have anybody pushing me and telling me, you should do this, you're gonna be great someday. I can't go back in time. I can only do what I'm doing now. But it does, I'm not mad at any one person for the hobby being where it's at now, but I am a little infuriated at like the variables and the factors that created this massive inflated bubble of Pokemon right now. And one last, like the Charizard being a $2,000 card in August, and I know that would have been one of the first cards that I would have gone after. And I kick myself, constantly for not looking into buying that card sooner, because that was the first high-end card that I bought. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, thousands of dollars for a piece of cardboard. Like, I just couldn't even fathom it. And I've started to just get desensitized from it all. Like, you're gonna just have to spend money in this hobby at this point. We're still seeing record sales. We're still seeing things creep up for high-end, old, vintage PSA 10 cards. We're still seeing that happen. So I'm gonna continue buying cards that I like. And whatever happens is gonna happen with the market, at least I'll be an example for a lot of you. I know I meant for this video to be shorter, guys, but I just have a lot on my mind. One thing I would like to say is, if you're new to the hobby, if you've been in it a while, it's not that I think that modern Pokemon has the best growth. I think modern Pokemon is probably the safest bet, though. I think it's the safest bet. It's really tough to say that because there's so much product out there. There's an abundance of it. But I think it's the safest bet because of the price, right? You can get in now at the MSRPs of this stuff, regardless if Pokemon Company is raising MSRP, whatever. You can get in now and buy a box of Brilliant Stars, which could be a $2,000 box in 5-10 years, whatever. Speculate here. Not a pump, just speculation. Like, this is gonna happen, guys. I genuinely believe that like sets are gonna be astronomical in another 10 years. Will you care by then? Will $2,000 go very far in 10 years? Who knows? Somebody made that comment the other day, like, a couple dollars for this card, if you held on it for a long time, it's not gonna make a difference. If you held on to all your bulk and started selling it down the road. Even though I love bulk. But vintage, it's safe too because it's older. They're not printing it anymore. PSA is pop controlling their top dollar cards. There's probably a good reason for that, not to piss off investors. It sucks because cards that should be 10s are probably getting 9s now, which is why the 9 market for vintage is a really safe place to be as well. But overall, like, I think they're both great plays. I don't have like a versus one another butting heads. I like vintage personally way more than modern. But from an investing standpoint, from like buying and holding on to stuff, you don't have a lot of loss with modern Pokemon, right? You could have some losses with vintage. If I bought, again, this guy, great example. This one actually has gone up in value, but the mass majority of 9s and 10s that people bought in 2021, 2022, man, they got burned on those cards. And I honestly, I genuinely feel for all those people because it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous how massive, the market got and how much exposure it got. And I guess people were just sitting at home, not doing anything, and it exploded. But that's a perfect example of you buy a high-end vintage card like that, you might get burned because you're buying it all the way at the top. Even if it's a 9 or a 10, nobody can know exactly what's going to happen, so you have to be super cautious. I should practice what I preach, but I don't. I'm still buying stuff that I like because I'm a risk taker. It's in my genetics. I like to take risks. I'm definitely a gambler of sorts when it comes to Pokemon cards, and especially opening products and thinking that I'm going to be the one, I'm going to get this card. Anyways, that's a whole other topic, but we don't know what's going to happen, but I think moving forward, it's safe to say that, regardless of everything that's happened in the past, modern is probably still a safe bet to buy sealed product and sit on that. If you're willing to sit on it, it's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be extravagant. But if you want to, collect product and not feel guilty about it because you think that you're going to create some value over time, I think modern booster boxes are probably a really, really smart way to go about it. But this is not a market video or investing. Really, it's not. It's just, I wanted to reflect and have some time to vent and look back on everything that happened. It was a really tough time for people in this country, and the fact that we're all just, our heads kind of in the sand a little bit, just like Collecticon and, oh my God, this YouTuber opened this and like they pulled this and it's crazy. And like, have you seen this? Did you see that auction? Did you see this? Like, dude, none of it should have mattered during that time. None of it should have mattered. And I don't want to dull and down the hobby at all because I love this hobby. It's awesome. I love collecting cards. But the rate at which things grew out of control in that period of time, it's a little bit disturbing. And how much money went into it, how much money was lost into the hobby in that period of time, how many people, the scalping, all of it. I mean, I even feel guilty sometimes being like, oh, like I'm a YouTuber. Meanwhile, people are struggling, when COVID ended, struggling to find work and do stuff. And I'm like, oh, things are great over here. I'm a YouTuber. I've been making videos. Things have been pretty peachy over here. But the world was not a peachy place during the time that Pokemon became very popular. And I think maybe part of me loves vintage too, because it represents a time where that wasn't a thing, right? Where we weren't, having, chaotic times in the world. I think in the end, we all love Pokemon because it makes us lighthearted and brings back childhood memories, and it's a safe space. And I don't say that lightly. It is a safe space. It's a great community. I've had maybe 2 bad lemons that mistreated me, or people that literally came after me, that were like, I'm gonna bring you down or expose you for, false, misinforming people, like, don't you lie to your subscriber. Like, I've had some weirdos try and contact me, and that's definitely shooken me up, and I know I'm gonna get more of that. But overall, like, I want to say like maybe two experiences of like thousands of people. And this is also why, and I'm going to end with this because it's perfect to end with. I don't like drama. I do not like drama. I don't like being a part of the drama. I don't want my name brought up in drama. I'm doing my own thing over here, and that's that. Like, so I think that's why I try and stay out of that, because it actually brings me an unprecedented amount of stress and strain. I have a family to take care of. I have a business to run. I have myself to take care of. And I'm also just trying to make good content. And so it also hurts me when I see other content creators dogging other content creators, even if they're wrong, even if they're stupid, even if they're, misinforming or lying or opening up product early. And I don't do these things, but people are so petty in this YouTube space, and I have held that in for so long. I have held it in for so long. It has eaten me up to watch content creators talk and bicker about each other and make little, accusatory things and belittle one another and degrade one another. Oh, you can't take a joke, man. Like, dude, you're sitting on a screen judging somebody else. Like, makes me sick. So I think I got like maybe my yearly vent video out of the way. Just like, I love you guys, and thank you for supporting my channel and watching my stuff, and I hope you like this video, and I hope it allows you to think about your collecting experience and reflect. I know it's been a long one, and I'm sorry. I do have to go to work, so I should have been shorter, but I hope you reflect and think about, everything that came to be, and are just happy with your collection and with this hobby and enjoying it, because we are where we are. And I don't think that like the market's crashing and like just what happens with alternate arts and modern cards. I don't think it's connected to the broad scale of what's happening with this hobby. I think this hobby is just gonna be steadily, moving forward through here, and just enjoy it. Just enjoy it and have fun. And I'll have another kind of regular style video tomorrow, but I really wanted to get this one out there and just talk about the last couple of years, because it's been a crazy last couple of years. And anyways, I'm gonna let you guys go. Let me know what you think of the video. Let me know if you enjoyed it, if I should make more videos like it. Anyways, peace out, guys.